Michaels joining us. How are you, buddy?
Question for you.
Okay.
So, Rich Eisen does his show about 3 miles from here, right?
Yeah.
Makeup lady.
Yeah.
Hairdresser.
Yeah.
I come in today.
Yeah.
My wife is watching right now, screaming, going, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why don't you have any makeup on? Why is your hair a mess?" So let me, guys. Here's the question for you guys: Does he suck all the money out of the budget? Is it all the money?
Pretty much.
That's what I thought.
He'll give us like some cheese and crackers or like a Sprite or something.
And he's flying home. He's flying home on a charter, and you guys are going to scramble around through TSA at
That's
LAX.
exactly how it's going down.
Hi, Dan. How
Hey,
are
Al.
you? Top
Good.
of the morning to
Good.
you.
Good. But see, unlike Eisen, we keep it real.
Oh, really?
Yes.
He doesn't. Well, Rich keeps it real. But hey, let me ask you a question: Is this going to be a nonstop interview, or if Mark Wahlberg,
If Wahlberg calls back in,
or if Gregory Peck calls in, then you can take me off the air.
who would you
sure.
be okay with being bumped for if they called in?
I would be okay for Doc Rivers,
That's it.
my great and good buddy. Yeah. Doc needs some tender, loving care these days, too.
Yeah, he does.
He does. I just saw him the other day. But he's, Doc, he gets through it. Tough. We went to the 6th game the other night. I've never seen a team erase a 19-point deficit and then just keep on going, because we've seen a lot of NBA games where you'll be down 19 and now, you huff and you puff and you get closer, you get there, but then the other team rebounds because you've expended all of your energy. But they just kept, woo! That was rough.
Is Steph Curry becoming a transcendent sports figure where we're seeing something we haven't seen before? It's must-watch TV when he's on the floor.
Well, he's new to the national scene.
Yeah.
So maybe, but he's in the embryonic phase of that. If you're playing for the New York Knicks and you're Steph Curry or the Lakers or maybe even the Chicago Bulls or whomever, but the Golden State Warriors haven't had a lot of national exposure over the past several years. So all of a sudden, everybody's kind of getting introduced to Steph Curry and seeing how phenomenal he is.
But what does it take to be must-watch, must-see TV?
Heroic performances, buzzer-beating shots, when the public perceives that nobody can stop this guy. He's kind of like all of these things right now. Does it last forever? He's great fun to watch. That whole team is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr's done a magnificent job coaching that team, and they haven't been to the finals since I was living in the Bay Area 40 years ago. Al Attles was the coach at that time. So it's kind of fun. It's always good to see new blood, no matter what the sport is, come to the fore. And these guys, they'd be favored to win it all right now.
We had a bet yesterday on what meal you would have last night.
Mm-hmm. I heard it.
Okay.
You win.
I said you're not going steak. I think everybody was in on steak for Al Michaels.
Well, tonight is steak, and tomorrow is probably steak.
Last night was...
Wednesday was steak. Tuesday were pork chops. So last night was veal parmesan. But I thought about it. When I was ordering last night, I thought about coming on the show today, and this would be one of the first questions. By the way, this is beautiful. This is a live shot right here of wherever that is.
Yeah. Of the beach.
I'm looking at this thing here. The boys look like you got the cables and the wires, and they look like they're taking a 7th grade science final.
Yeah.
Who is the set designer here?
Hello.
Hello again, everybody.
Yeah, it's me. Me. This is just sort of, we put it together. We don't need hair and makeup. We don't need to dress this up. It's
right. It's a radio show. I keep forgetting.
Yes, that happens to be on TV.
TV, right.
Rich Eisen has a TV show that's on radio. I have a radio show on TV.
Hey, by the way, Jerry West, I heard you talk about
great is Jerry.
Your dad the other day and how proud he would have been. Not only did Jerry come in to be on your show, but he'd been in Oakland the night before, which meant he didn't get home until 1 in the morning to get up at whatever time he got up to be here. And he wore a sport jacket.
Oh, I know.
thought that was very cool.
It was awesome. It was
the logo.
It was just great. And sometimes you don't want to meet somebody that you looked up to, you idolized. I felt that way about Pete Maravich. But I've been around Jerry, but now it's face to face and sitting down, and I'm thinking as I'm interviewing him, I'm thinking of my dad, and I'm saying, keep it together here. Because I got emotional, because that was my dad's favorite player. So You talk about meeting him and then thinking of your dad and then trying to have an interview with Jerry. And he could not have been nicer, except for when he talked about your golf game.
And he's right, though. You know, Jerry cuts to the chase. He's right.
All right, here's Jerry West on Al Michaels' golf game. Al Michaels is there every day, isn't he, at Bel Air?
Yeah, Al's game is lacking a little bit.
Maybe you should take up cards.
I love Al, and obviously I watch him hit balls, and I say, come on, Al. but he's got a friend with him who takes pictures of him. When Al misses a shot, the language, I wish we could have it on this show. Okay?
Accurate?
Very. Meanwhile, Jerry, have you ever played golf with Jerry?
No.
He doesn't play a lot of golf. He practices a lot.
He used to be great.
Used to be.
Yeah.
He goes to he was on the range about 2 weeks ago, and there's a flag, 150 yards out, and he's got an 8-iron or a 9-iron, which is pretty good for a guy of his age. Bang, 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 bang. One right after another. Phenomenal. And he does it with such elegance and ease. It's almost as if he was playing basketball. That's the way he was. I'm old enough to remember. I moved out here from New York when the Lakers moved here in 1960. I saw a bunch of games that first season, and Jerry talked about they had an attendance meter at the sports arena. When people would come in, they'd click through the turnstile, and the numbers would go up, like 4,800 for a Laker game. And in the playoffs, either that year or the following year, the sports arena was booked for a circus. So they played at the Shrine Auditorium. I remember a playoff game against the St. Louis Hawks. So here you are in the audience, and there's a stage, and the basketball court's on the stage, and behind it is like a curtain. And the Lakers, that's how tough it was for the NBA to get a foothold here. But you had Jerry and Elgin Baylor, and it's been said before, but Elgin was Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan. He was phenomenal. What a team to watch.
And he was talking about how guilty he felt that he didn't win more championships as a player, and it drove him as a general manager to give Los Angeles back. That's pretty heavy stuff.
I was here at that time, and it was very frustrating because they'd play the Celtics, and it would go to 7 games, and they'd get beat. And they'd get beat by a point or 2 points, and they just couldn't get over the hump. So it was, what would it be like, the Atlanta Braves in a way, except they won their World Series back in 95, and then they won a whole bunch of other times. And the teams that just keep getting to the finals, but can't. It's the Minnesota Vikings for the 4 consecutive years. It's the Buffalo Bills. It's that same thing where, just one time can it happen. And then, of course, once they won one, they won a bunch.
He's Al Michaels joining us in studio. We'll take a break. We'll come back. I want to ask you about what's going on with the Patriots, with Robert Kraft deciding not to fight the appeal, the extra point, what's going on in the NFL, and whatever else happens to come up here. Is that good?
Okay by me.
All right.
These guys are going to get a raise, by the way?
We love Al Michaels. Did I tell you that recently?
What have we learned today?
Al Michaels is a genius. We already knew it, but it confirmed.
He's our agent now.
There you go.
Interesting.
Entourage.
Al brings up getting a raise. Okay. Seemed to be a topic of conversation recently with the Danettes.
Keep it going. Stir that pot.
Al Michaels joining us here. Our last day in Los Angeles. Been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. You ever play golf with a president?
Yes. I played golf with George Bush, 43. He was out of office, and there were 5 of us playing in Las Vegas. I got invited by a friend of mine who was a friend of the president's. And the 4 of us got to the course. He was already there. He had the scorecard filled out. And in a 5-man game, you got 3 different games going, but he wanted to keep score, and he had the team set, so he had the whole thing. So we're taking turns riding in the cart with him, and at about the 8th hole, I get into the cart with him, and he's like this. He's got the thing going and the pencil and this team and that team. And I looked at him, and I said, "You're like Ben Bernanke." He goes, "Better." Like he had a wonderful sense of humor. He made a great putt on one of the holes, and I whipped out my iPhone and interviewed him as if I was at the Masters. And he had just won the Masters, and George Bush and he was fantastic. He played with me all the way down the line.
Did you talk smack? Did you back and forth at all?
Minimal smack.
Minimal.
But I was on one of his teams, so we were minimally smacking the other guys. So, but he has a phenomenal sense of humor.
Could you golf with a Democratic
Well,
president?
would you stop it? Of course. What do you mean a Democrat? First of all,
You're a card-carrying Republican.
no, I am not. I am far more a libertarian. You see, the thing is, if somebody ever contributes to a Republican cause, you are now Attila the Hun, right? You know how this works,
Yeah,
right? It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So don't believe everything you read. Of course I could play golf with a Democrat. I could vote for a Democrat. This has nothing to do.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because
I just asked
you're
a
just
question.
feeding into this garbage that's out there.
Oh, no, I didn't know if...
in the press and the internet, right? And you're better than that, Dan. Isn't he better than that, guys?
Slightly.
Slightly. Okay, you're right.
Okay, so you're not a card-carrying Republican.
Would you stop
You're a
it?
libertarian.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm an anti-hypocrite. How's that? Now, how's that, right? Go find some.
Wow.
But if I can find somebody who's not a hypocrite, I'll vote for him. I don't care of what stripe they
I
are.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
That segues into the Patriots and Deflategate here.
There you go.
All right.
I am a patriot, by the way. Not a New England patriot, but
Okay.
I'm a patriot.
You're not a pinhead.
I'm not.
You're a
that's
patriot.
Right. Right. Thank you, as Dennis calls O'Reilly, Billy. Thank you, Billy. Yeah.
All right, so explain to me how this plays out with
Sure.
Deflategate.
Well, it's partially played out because Bob Kraft has taken the possible appeal or a lawsuit off the table. So that part's played out. So right now, all it is Brady being represented by the NFLPA with the appeal. Anybody who says they know how it's going to play out, they don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know that anybody knows how it's going to play out. I was not surprised as to what Bob Kraft did, because if you want to sue the National Football League, you're basically suing your own partners. Now, for Al Davis, that was an easy thing to do. Al Davis loved litigation. If he was a plaintiff, nothing was better in life. It was as good as a Super Bowl victory. And he sued and he won. And Bob Kraft, the league means too much to him. He's too much a part of the league. He's the Patriots. And, of course, it's his family's legacy. And he hates when it gets tarnished. But as important as that is the well-being of the National Football League. And he is, along with maybe Jerry Jones and a couple of other owners, the most powerful and influential owners. And so he felt it would be in the best interest of the league to do what he did, and he did it. Now, how the Brady thing plays out, I have no clue. All I know is that, and you know this as well as anybody, that if the 4-game suspension is upheld, where do we see Tom next? On Sunday Night Football on NBC. Come on along with the best on TV. Pop, 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 pop.
And against the Colts.
And against the team that theoretically blew the whistle. Tom comes back. At that point, who knows what they are? Garoppolo will have played 4 games at that point. They have a bye week, and then we go to a Sunday Night Football.
If I said create the tease for that, the opening shot with you and Chris, as you open up the game with Brady back against the Colts, how would you create that?
You might say, Jimmy Garoppolo is 4-0, has a 137 pass rating, and they've got to take him out of the lineup. How would that sound? I don't. You know what? It's so far down the line, and people ask me, well, "What are you going to say?" I don't know what I'm going to say. This is 4 or 5 or 6 months away, whatever it is.
Well, even opening night.
Opening night. Well, yeah.
Yeah, you got that too.
Right. And you're going to get it before we get it. So what are you going to say so I know how I can fold into things that you're not going to say?
I'll just say, let's go to Bob Costas.
There you go. Let's go to Bob Costas.
Was there a moment when you were growing up where you heard play-by-play and that all of a sudden that created something there for you that said, that's what I want to do?
Sure. Vince Scully and Red Barber doing the Dodgers when I'm a kid growing up in Brooklyn. They're my team. We lived within walking distance of Ebbets Field. I remember Red, the young Vinny. They had a guy named Connie Desmond, who was also a really good announcer at the time. So to me, wanting to do this from the time I was 6 years old, you hear a voice in your ear. And in basketball, it might have been Chick Hearn. Chick and Marv Albert are the best who have ever done basketball. There's no doubt about it. I wouldn't think of anybody in terms of hockey. I mean, Mike Emmerich is so far and away the greatest of all time right now. But Mike, I didn't hear Mike when I was a kid. Football, Chris Schenkley used to do the New York Giants on radio before he went national.
Yeah.
So he was kind of the voice in my ear when I thought about football. But Vinny and Red Barber would have been the guys. And then later on, Kurt Gowdy, because he was doing all the big games on NBC. And I loved Kurt.
But to listen on radio, it's a lost art now because growing up, you can see every game on TV.
Right.
And I think it does a disservice to the actual sport, because when you listen, Vin Scully's creating for you. Or when I was, in Cincinnati listening to you when you did the Reds, you're creating for me as I'm listening on the radio, which is it's just a whole different sense, that you're tapping into, where you have imaginary baseball games or football games in your mind. And that's what was always fun about it. You don't have that now.
Well, radio is more fulfilling for an announcer because you're painting the picture and you can use verbs, whereas on television, you can use verbs, but mainly it's ellipses. And as a consequence, you paint the whole picture for somebody when you're talking to them on the radio. Television, you're an adjunct, and you want to. I've always compared it to the game itself is the melody, and you're providing the lyrics. And just make sure the lyrics work, because if they don't, then it sounds cacophonous and it's very annoying to the viewer. But if you're driving along in the car, I mean, the announcer's painting everything for you. And I've always felt that hockey was the hardest, because in every other sport, a team has possession. In baseball, somebody's at the plate. In football, somebody has the ball. In basketball, somebody has the ball, even though there may be a couple of turnovers within a 15-second period. In hockey, it's hard to follow it in your mind's eye because possession is changing every couple of seconds, and very often nobody has possession. The puck's at center ice. This guy's fighting for it. That guy. So the guys who do hockey on radio, they have the toughest job of all, because it's the hardest sport to try to see in your brain.
I also think that it takes a knack, an art to calling sports on TV, because you must complement the action. You don't have to tell me what the action is. You have to complement the action. Right. So you almost have to be, you're wearing a seatbelt a little bit, because
right.
you can't go all out, and you have to pick your spots.
You do have to pick them. And the key thing for me, too, is, we're there live, but if you want to talk about something that's not on the monitor, you have to say, hey, look, here's what's happening apart from what you are seeing. Because very often I say, if I were to say, hey, what are the biggest mistakes I've made, it would be basically not referring to something that was on the screen at home, because I'm looking at something else. And they're saying, what was that? And I haven't seen it. So, early on in my career, that would happen, more often than it does now. Obviously, I kind of know how to split the baby. But that's the key. If somebody sees something, you have to be able to if the viewer at home goes, what was that? You have to be able to tell them, what was that?
How nervous do you get? So you've had 2 Super Bowls. The last 2 you've done have been down to the last play.
3.
Last 3.
Pittsburgh, Arizona.
Yeah, so that, because it's historical. I mean, it's there forever, the call that you have. The Seattle, there at the goal line. Roethlisberger leading the Steelers down. Do you do anything different when you know that here's what could be the game-winning play?
No, you don't, because you just have to trust your instincts. I've been around long enough to know, don't script it in your head. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Malcolm Butler. Let's see, if Malcolm Butler intercepts a pass at the goal line, here's what I'm going to say.
But you had to know they could pass in that situation.
Right. I mean, it's kind of funny. The nervousness before a Super Bowl telecast is a little bit before the game, and it's an anxiousness. It's like, hey, we can't wait to get going. And I mean, you were there last year. Chris and I are driving out. The game's going to start at 4:30. We're probably going out around noon. So it's that period of time where, hey, we're ready. Let's go. Let's go.
Like a player.
Get it started. Right. Come on. Just get it going. Get on the air. And then once you're on the air, you've been there for a ton of games. Do it the way you normally do it. It's the Super Bowl, obviously. And then when that game, obviously is fantastic at the end, I don't know, somehow the synapses of your brain open up a little wider. And it's not a nervousness, but I mean, I'm trying to see everything. I'm trying to see everything at once.
But do you call it like we're watching it, that you're surprised that they're throwing on the goal line?
I thought there was a possibility. I know when they came to the line of scrimmage on 2nd and goal after Lynch had been stopped by Hightower at the 1-yard line, the first thing I did was look to see where Revis was, because I knew that if they threw, it wouldn't be over there to the left.
Yeah.
So I could see maybe to the right. I'm not necessarily thinking pass, but I want to see where the players are. Where is whom? Where is Baldwin? Where is Curse? Where is Lockett? So I was able to see them, and it's not as if I saw Butler, But, Browner is playing inside and then Butler is outside. And in my mind, I'm not going through I don't have time to go through all of the guys, but it pops in there.
But aren't you thinking, well, they have to go Marshawn Lynch?
No, I don't. Because, and it was not that I knew these statistics precisely beforehand, but Lynch had scored one time and 5 runs from the 1 yard line. In the NFL, I did know that over the past couple of years that you have a slightly better chance of scoring on a pass from the 1 yard line than you do on a run. So it wasn't as if I was totally shocked that they did that. And again, it's all happening. I've got to call the game. And so you have, it's like a post-game show, and you handle that. I don't. And I've got to think about, if I had to say something, it would be, I get the pass part of it, but there's a better pass play to run.
Yes.
And, it's a million second guesses here, and Pete Carroll's heard every one of them. But with Russell Wilson, a 5'10" quarterback, don't you roll him out? Don't you give him a chance to run into the end zone?
Yeah.
If he can't, don't you give him a chance to throw a fade? If they don't make the catch, it's incomplete. Yeah, it's nice and easy for us to say this right now because we know what took place. Like Pete Carroll said, it wasn't the worst call of all time, but it was probably the worst result of all time.
Yes. But you're also – have you ever watched a game while you're calling it and almost getting too into the game and forgetting that you're supposed to be calling it?
No, because I know where I am. I've done this for so long now that I get where to me, less is more. And as excited – when early on in my career, I would get like overly excited sometimes, and then I'd hear it back and go, "Oh, shut up!" When I heard the tape, "Stop it! You're annoying." So nobody ever got in trouble for saying less than more, and that's not my credo. But it's just easier to just wait a split second. Because sometimes if you jump in on something and it doesn't happen, then you're apologizing left and right. I've trained myself to wait, like a fifth of a second.
But there's nothing more powerful than silence when you have that moment where you don't say anything.
Right.
And I think as a listener or viewer, you lean in a little closer, which is what you want when you're doing a game.
Oh, no, there's no doubt. And on that play, I mean, what I said after Butler made the interception was out of my heart. Unreal. Because that's how I felt. I mean, how does a Super Bowl end with one team going in to win the game, and then like your number 9 defensive back intercepts the pass? What? So, unreal just spoke to how I felt about it. This is why we love sports, because there are so many unreal things, and then to have it happen at the end of a Super Bowl is really unreal.
Can you stick around for another segment?
I can't. What time is it? Yeah.
You have to be someplace?
I have to be at Grandparents' Day, but I'll be there. I'll be here.
No, if you have to leave,
no,
okay.
I'm going to go straight on the 405.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Linda, I'll be out there. Don't worry. I'll be there by 9:30.
Okay. A shout out to his wife. I want to ask you about the extra point. If the NFL went far enough with that.